I am still very optimistic when it comes to the future of ONDO, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, maybe if, let's say, ONDO does go to the price of $20, that right there wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, even though it may never happen. But the way you take a look at it is that ONDO really has, in my opinion, I can't speak on anyone's behalf, A-plus fundamentals. Now, the reason being is because I think arguably, I would say that ONDO is one of the best projects within the DeFi space. And of course, when it comes to DeFi, it stands for decentralized finance. Now, I get it. There's a bunch of DeFi projects out there, and many of them, I think, are more established than something like ONDO. But really, I think ONDO has more layers to it. I'm going to talk about it later. But even besides that point, what I like about the DeFi market is that, according to Grandview Research, that market is expected to be worth over $200 billion by 2030. That's a very massive market, bigger than some countries' GDP. So I think that's very amazing. Again, ONDO may never necessarily become number one within that space, but I do like its fundamentals at the end of the day. Now, we have to take a look at something else that ONDO is focused on, and it's focused on something called RWAs. Now, RWA stands for Real World Asset, and this is a big thing as of right now because, I think the potential use case of RWAs could really be something amazing because, for instance, if we take a look at RWA tokenization, more specifically RWA tokens, right? These are digital representations of physical assets on the blockchain. Why is this amazing? It's because examples of the markets that, they could be used for is like in cases, for instance, art. Also, for instance, in the case of bonds, stocks, real estate. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. So I like the direction here. And even if we take a look at projects like Zebic, which, gain a lot of traction as of late, now it's having a pullback, but I'm just saying, not too long ago, it had a lot of attention, and that also has an aspect of RWA and ONDO, which is a very massive project, even currently, focus on RWAs. And again, it's kind of like a big narrative as of right now. I feel like even though the altcoin space isn't doing the best, I like ONDO's focus. Now, let's not forget, it's even been stated that at ONDO, they design institutional grade platforms, assets, and infrastructure to bring financial markets on chain. Now, for instance, right, they have a platform that's allegedly not available in the US currently. But even besides that, it does allow individuals to buy, sell, and trade thousands of tokens backed one-to-one by traditional stocks, bonds, and ETFs. So basically, in simple terms, this is thousands of RWAs in just one platform. And I've already talked about, again, RWAs before. But again, I'm just saying, this is the special thing about ONDO. I think it's focused on markets that are on the rise, and I do like its exposure as well. It's this in pretty good exchanges, and the community is very fantastic. So I think ONDO is a no-brainer for me, at least, even though I cannot speak on anyone's behalf. I can only speak on mine. And now people like to argue that, ONDO doesn't necessarily have the best adoption and all this type of stuff. Well, I think we've seen time and time again within this space that people don't necessarily care too much about that. They more so care about the anticipation and also what market the, I would say, project is focused on and if it's on the rise. If I think people only focused on projects that had good adoption, I think many of the AI projects, blockchain gaming, all that type of stuff, I think many of them wouldn't really be that massive at all, really, because many of them are not that good, in my opinion. But then yet, even still, despite that, many of them are massive. And the reason why, I think, is because people care about the story, they care about the narrative. Take a look at, for instance, many blockchain gaming projects out there say they're going to do this, do that. They never launch anything. A lot of metaverse projects, especially, I've noticed, do this a lot. They never do anything really, right? Like in terms of the metaverse or whatever. But then still they gain a lot of attention. Now, again, I think the reason is because people more so care about projects that are focused on those markets. And then when they see something at least updating a little bit, they're like, oh, wow. But then at the same time, again, if we take a look at it, it doesn't really have good adoption, right? But then again, it doesn't really matter as of right now, at least from what I've noticed. It might be a different case, maybe like 5, 10, 15 years later. I'm not sure because I can't tell the future. But at least as of currently, I don't notice that to be something that people tend to care about, really. But even besides that point, ONDO at the price of $20, do I think it's kind of, unrealistic? Well, it's going to depend on, what people may think is unrealistic or not. But the way I take a look at it is that it wouldn't surprise me because if it were to go to that price, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $63 billion, which may seem like a lot at first glance, but that's actually still over $20 billion, give or take less than Dogecoin's all-time high market cap. And Dogecoin reached that back in 2021. That was years ago, right? So this time around, if people are saying Dogecoin's going to go to at least the price of $1, some people are saying this. Are we saying that like, something like ONDO can't maybe go to that market cap? Again, right around 63 billion, maybe, hypothetically. That wouldn't shock me. But even still, despite that, $20 is around a 22x from here. So it's not this micro cap that's going to hypothetically do like a 1000x or whatever. It's not going to do that. But then it doesn't matter to me because I don't really want to believe in micro caps anyways, But then at the same time, I don't want to believe in kind of like Bitcoin because let's say Bitcoin went to the price of 300,000, that's still less than a 3x from here slightly. It really wouldn't kind of like excite me, in my opinion. So what is a good like balance in between? I think something that's pretty well established, like ONDO for me. But then at the same time, it's not like too massive, but then it's not too like small either, right? In the grand scheme of things in terms of market cap. ONDO may never reach $20, but even at the price of $10, it's still give or take around a 10x from here, approximately. So I really don't see why I would not believe in ONDO. Again, I can't speak on anyone's behalf, but I like its stability in a sense that I get it. It's more risky than Bitcoin, but then at least the community is amazing. I like the exchange listings. I like the fundamentals, and it's at least focused on the right markets, right? But here's the thing. Usually altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they usually peak around a year and a half after a Bitcoin halving event, and a year and a half from the last Bitcoin halving event would actually be October this year. Now that's based off history. I mean, there's really no way to tell the future at all. At least I can't do that. So then what can I do? I can just stay patient because whether or not it peaks at that time or like January of next year or whatever the case may be, I'm still going to be waiting anyways. So again, I'm just going to believe in the projects that I believe in and just see what happens because there is over 600 million crypto owners currently, according to Crypto.com research. That's more than ever before in history. So with all those bullish factors and, the amount of institutional investors, the amount of enterprise adoption, the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, sure, things can be different for altcoins this time around. Who knows? But then I just don't see why we might not see an altcoin season. Like, I don't see why there wouldn't be one, let me rephrase that, right? But I'm just saying, I just don't see why there wouldn't be a fully fledged type of altcoin season like what we saw with the last cycle and the last cycle before. And again, that's the way you take a look at it. So I'm just going to stay patient. But again, $20 wouldn't shock me whatsoever during this bull run. If we actually do see, let's say, a fully fledged type of altcoin season. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. Greatly appreciated. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.